Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm joined by Accredited Immigration Law Specialist, Mr. Don Susantha Katugampala, who is the head of Fairfields Lawyers and Australia Gateway. Now, as you were present at the Parliament in Canberra, when the federal budget for 2021 and 2022 was being delivered, I'm sure you have additional insight that you would love to share with us, specifically about business migration and how the budget affects it.
Australian budget 21-22 is going to maintain the same numbers of skill and business migration as the last financial year. It will be 79,000 places, quotas for entire financial year. Out of that, there will be about 15,000 places for business and investor visas to Australia. So the Australian government has recognized that the business and investor visas is an important aspect of migration to help the Australian economic growth. So therefore, whilst the borders are closed, whilst the opportunities for offshore skilled migrants are limited, the Australian government is going to continue to attract investor and business migrants from overseas who wish to come and conduct business in Australia or invest in Australia. So there are many options for them. And Australia has the highest attraction than ever from the business and investors. So that means that who wants to come to Australia on business migration, the requirements are competitive. And from 1 July, there'll be a new system, new legal framework for business migration. And everyone will have to come on a different framework of visas, and they need to meet different requirements to get their permanent residency in Australia. And whilst that requirements are higher because the demand is higher for Australia, and there will be new opportunities for entrepreneurs to come and invest and do business in Australia.
Yes, certainly. I believe Australia is very attractive for those who are looking to invest and trying to migrate here to start their business. But what specifically do you have in mind when you speak of what they want to invest in, and why are they so attracted to coming here, and what other opportunities do they have here?
So if you compare with the US and Europe, Australia has a huge property growth, and the property market is growing and stable because we are still a new country, and therefore lots of new properties, new households being built in this country. So that's a great opportunity in Australia compared to many other countries. They're even better than Canada or many other new countries, and that's one aspect. And in addition to that, there's a lot of service industry, hospitality, tourism. And when economy is open, when the borders are open, we are going to have a boost in the economy. So the Australian government is very confident of that, and therefore Australia will continue to have an economic growth. So therefore, for investors looking at Australia, looking at immigrating out of their home countries, invest into outside, Australia should be the best place to invest.
Well, that's very good to hear. I'm sure that everyone that's considering investing in Australia must be very happy to hear that. But could you give us a rough outline of what are some of those requirements that they need to meet?
There are different types of business and investor visas, and primarily the business owner, business entrepreneur visa, where the applicant must own a minimum 30% of the business, and or it could be more than one business, two business maximum combined together, and certain dollar value of turnover per year, and certain assets, and then they have a genuine intention to conduct a business in Australia. And all these business migrants must be sponsored, nominated by a respective state or territory. So it could be Victoria, New South Wales, Queensland, South Australia, Western Australia, Tasmania, or Darwin. Any state can nominate them. Investor visa, where the applicant will have to invest large amount of money in Australian state government bonds, and where that money will be placed for a period of 4 years, and the applicant doesn't necessarily have to conduct a business in Australia. And there are significant investor visa, SIV category, where they can invest $5 million, and in that They'll have to spend minimum time in Australia, but still they can obtain permanent residence, work towards their PR. But generally the other visas, business visas, they need to come and reside here. They need to spend majority of time in Australia to be eligible to obtain their permanent residence. There'll be a new entrepreneur visa that the government has announced, the previous minister has announced on his last day. And under that entrepreneur visa, people who are not in business, who don't own business, or investors, if they are senior executives, if they got the right business skills, they should be able to qualify for that entrepreneur visa, which is an excellent news for many international entrepreneurs to come and establish business in Australia. The details are to be released, and that will come into effect from 1 July. So overall, Australian government is very positive about bringing investors and business people. And but again, your matter is an individual matter, and you need to understand your pathway. You need to understand what you really want to do in Australia, in that particular territory or state, and you need to obtain proper advice and understand the proper legal framework, and you should be able to then obtain your permanent residence in Australia.
Thank you so much for joining us today, Susantha. It has been a pleasure having you here and getting all the advice and insight from you about how the budget will affect those who are looking to migrate here on a business visa, and the hopeful and inspirational words that you gave us so that we all understand how important it is to get the right advice. We will see you again soon for another session.